Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 265, and I know it's Thursday. you know, I had some spare time on my hands today, so I figured to get a podcast in. And believe me, the sweat is not for aesthetics. It's cold as a motherfucker here. This morning I got up to go to an appointment. It was 65 fucking degrees at 7:45 in Hawaii. We're not used to this shit. Like I got socks on right now. That's how fucking cold I am. Anyway, man, I just wanted to get on here and say that be mindful of what you're doing. Never mix business with pleasure. Um, I think that's the most idiotic thing you can do, to be honest with you. Because once you mix business with pleasure, you end up doing shit that you normally wouldn't do. It's like it's like sleeping with a coworker, right? I've never done it. I've seen people do it, and majority of the time, 99 out of 100, it doesn't work out. You know, because it's like you got to see this person every day, you got to talk to them every day, and chances more than not, it's like your coworker isn't hot; they're just 10 feet away from you, and you spend 8 hours a day with them. You know, or then people start talking, and it's like okay, then you find out that they really don't have any substance, right? They're like, oh, they're all is a pretty face. It's like, and to me, it's like a lot of people will use you simply because of what you have access to, resources, whatever it is. And granted, you know, we're all here to get used. We're not here to get misused and abused. Jules Santana said that perfectly. And it's true. Everybody has a role. I'm not one of them dudes that want to sit there and be like, oh, yeah, X, Y, Z. Somebody say this, somebody say that. I'm like, no, at the end of the day, it's like, it is what it is. It's like we all have gifts and talents and we all have to use them, accordingly. The problem is that people want to overstay the welcome, over benefit a relationship, whether it's romantic, platonic, whatever it is, or like people want to backtrack. Um, I recently had a romantic, relationship swing back around, you know, not me, but I'm saying in general. And they swung back around and they wanted to be friends with this individual. And the individual was like, nah, I'm not doing that. And when they were telling me about it, I'm like, I get it. It's because it's real difficult to be friends with somebody that you was having sex with, being intimate with. It's like we've all been there. Like once I see you in your birthday suit, it's a wrap. We can't go back to being friends. It's like no, it's like there's parts of us that we've seen, shit that we've done that we can't, even if we wanted to walk it back, we can't. And I think that's where a lot of people get it screwed up at. They think, oh well, I can just do X, Y, and Z, and we can just be friends. It's like no, we can't. And I think it's also extremely weird for somebody to proposition that offer. And I'm like, why would somebody who's been intimate with you want to be friends with you? I also think it's weird that people do that because it's almost like you want to keep tabs on your former significant other in another capacity. Because once I stop, being in a romantic relationship, I don't tell them anything that's going on with me. I don't tell them who I'm dating. I don't tell them what's X, Y, and Z because there's no point. Like, why would I sit there and let somebody have access to me in a way when what you want is completely different? And a lot of people would say, well, some people are better off with friends. It's like, yeah. And majority of the time, you realize that well before you have sex with them. You know, I've seen people get divorced or whatnot because of cheating, and I'm like, I can understand first time. Okay, that's a legitimate, legitimate mistake. You know, but anything after that is a choice. You know, especially if you carry on relationships while you're still, legally married to somebody else. It's like that's not cool. And I have friends who've done that, and I'm like, yo, it's like I'm not saying that I'm gonna sit here and say that I get it because I don't. I don't know what it's like to cheat on your significant other. I don't understand why somebody would do that, but I'm not gonna sit here and judge you. I'm not gonna sit here and be like, well, act like I'm better than you or whatever it is, because I'm not. Obviously, you have your reasons. Um, but if you're consistently cheating on somebody, or you every relationship that you're in, you end up cheating, and it's like that says more about you than anything else. Um, and I think a lot of people are too afraid to sit with their emotions and like understand what they're going through. Because if you did understand what you're going through, you probably wouldn't do what you've been doing, right? And it's true. I think a lot of people they just don't understand the weight of their actions, until after it's done. And I'm also a firm believer that two people can be great apart but be horrible together. Or another thing too, like a guy could be a horrible husband but be a great fucking dad. Or a a, a mom could be a horrible wife but be a great mom. Yeah, a lot of people ask me like, "What? Like, think about it, bro. It's like just because you guys didn't work out doesn't mean that it's an end all be all for everybody." As I've gotten older, like I've only dated one. I've only I was back in college, so and I wasn't really dating her. It was more just hanging out. But I've only dated women who have kids because obviously, as you get older, and me, I'm be 38 this year, so it's like, okay, there's a strong possibility that you'll be dating women who have at least one kid or multiple kids, right? Depending on how old she is. And the older you get, the possibility of you dating a single mom or a single dad, it's a high probability. And the only way that you most likely are gonna get a person who doesn't have any kids is if you date younger. Very few women my age don't have kids, or at least have one kid. And those who don't have any kids is like there's a reason why. Is like, you know, and but I just think it's strange how people will sit there and like not understand that like the reason why shit didn't work out, it wasn't because X, Y, and Z, it's because of you and your inability to grow and your inability to get better and your inability to understand your own situations. Excuse me. And I'm not saying that I'm free from accountability. I'm not saying that I'm X, Y, and Z. Because I'm not. I've never been in therapy. I probably should go. Um, I think therapy is important, but I also think that people rely on therapy too much, and instead of them looking to use the social skills and the coping skills that they get through therapy. I've seen a lot of people go through therapy for years and still not know how to communicate effectively. Still not know how to. They don't know how to manage their own emotions. They don't know how to regulate themselves. And I'm like, how are you in therapy for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years and you don't know how to regulate your emotions? Like, what type of therapeutic practice are you going to where you're not tackling how to deal with emotions? And I had to break it down one day to this lady that I knew, and because she was complaining about, the dude that she was dating, this and that, and how he wanted to do X, Y, and Z. He always wanted to help her with her work, and get it completed. And I'm like, yo, because he's trying to spend time with you. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah. It was like, he's trying to spend time with you. He said he figured, like, if I help her tackle her work or whatever it is, we can spend more time doing X, Y, and Z. You know, or if I can sit here and calm her down, you know, there's a good chance that whatever she's tripping on, she's gonna stop because, like, you know, I'm a calming presence. And I think a lot of people who do go to therapy, yes, therapy is needed, but I think a lot of the times, people go to therapy for the wrong reasons. One of my homegirls told me that she's like, a lot of people go to therapy, um, when shit is bad. When you're going through a breakup, when somebody dies, X, Y, and Z. But she's like, no, like a lot of the times you need to go to therapy when things are good. Like therapy isn't just when you're in a chaotic situation or chaotic, time frame. It's like therapy is good for when you are good. And I think a lot of people who use therapy as a coping mechanism don't really understand what therapy really is about. You know, they don't understand that therapy is literally retraining your mind, your thoughts. You literally rewiring your brain, because negative thoughts get attached to neurons and all this other shit, right? Like there's no, there's neurological pathways that get created, via certain thoughts, right? Um, and I've been running across these ads, like pelvic floor, porn addiction, all this stuff, right? And mind you, I'm not a therapist by any means. I'm not, but I do have a bachelor's in psychology, so like I've been trained like a therapist. Even though I don't have a master's degree or PhD, whatever it is. I don't have that, but I can sit there and I can counsel people to the best of my ability. And a lot of the times, what I learned is like people don't want to be counseled per se. They just want to, they just want somebody to listen to them. And and I think the problem is with a lot of people, is that they trauma bond with people. They think that people have their best interests at heart, and they don't. And then you end up in situations where, like, damn, it's like, I thought you was X, Y, and Z. You really ain't shit, you know. And that goes for friends, families, acquaintances, whatever it is. It's like I'm the type of dude. I have no problem cutting you off. I have no problem, not communicating. I have no problem, um, you know, keeping up a boundary. And I'm not one to force conversations. I'm really not. It's like the one thing about me too is like I'm never gonna be that dude who sits there and listens to somebody, trash their significant other or whatever it is. Cause I'm like, yo, it's like number one is like you shouldn't be talking to anybody else about your situations that you're having with another romantic person other than your person. You know, I don't understand how people can do that and then they want to turn around and play victim. I'm like, but you can't. How are you gonna play victim in a situation where you're communicating to everybody else except the person that's causing you that stress? You know, a lot of people don't understand that, or they don't want to understand yet. You know, listen. And I tell people all the time, is like make sure that when you're with somebody, it's because you want to be with them. It's not because of what they offer you. It's not because of X, Y, and Z. Believe it or not, majority of women I've dated, they made more money than I have, significantly more money than I have. You know, And people ask me like, yo, like, how were you able to hook up with somebody who makes, X X amount of money? It's like, yo, it's not about the money, man. It's about the connection. It's about being a genuine person. It's about being vulnerable. It's about being emotionally available. And it's like, if you can't do that, then you need to get the proper training, and you also need to get out the way, man. Because it's like so many guys, they're fixated on, oh yeah, if I make 80, 90, 100 grand, whatever it is, it's like, yo, it's like, I'll be set. But okay, cool. Um, and that's really not the case, because money doesn't make the man. Being a man makes a man. And what I mean by that is that you don't, just because you make 100 grand a year doesn't mean you better than anybody else, bro. You know, and it doesn't. I ran across this thread last night where this brother was saying, he's like, yeah, and he's like, well, I thought, growing up, I thought making $38 an hour was a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. That's equivalent to like 77,000 dollars a year. You know, which is a decent living. Yeah, and I didn't ask the brother what he did, but then he was saying that he got this job offer, you know, for 300,000 a year. And mind you, whatever he does, he already loves what he does. And so I commented on the thread, I'm like, hey dog, like, I don't know you, my man, but I'm proud for you, my brother, because I am. You know, it's like he put the time in, and he dedicated himself to a craft, and now he's making some serious bread. You know what I mean? Which is great. I wish more black people would do that, bro. Because to be honest with you, we ain't all gonna be rappers and ball players, bro. Very few of us actually gonna, I mean, yeah, I have my setup. I make beats every day. But it's like, this is not my end all be all, bro. And it's like, I have goals and ambitions and dreams. I mean, and so it's like, but it's not fixated on one thing. I'm just trying to be a well-rounded individual, and and maybe I should go ask a brother what he does. Or what type of certifications that he has, because that's something that that you work towards. That you put in years of dedication to get better, to get to that level. Because I'm gonna tell you this much: they ain't offering 300,000 jobs to a bunch of nobodies. Yeah. And I think that's also the most important thing too, is like knowing that everything plays a role, knowing that everybody has a chapter in your story. You know, there've been a few times where I thought, a few characters were gonna be the co-main character, but thankfully they weren't. Um, I think a lot of people get stuck on the idea of what a person might be versus what they show you, and what they show you is completely different than what you have in your head. And that's why I think it's so dangerous that people fall in love with potential. You know, instead of them trying to figure things out as for what it is, you're sitting there thinking, "Oh yeah, it's X, Y, and Z," and it's not. Oh yeah, it's this and it's that, and it's not. You know, I think that's the most dangerous thing, when people fall in love with potential, and then that potential leads you to get married early, because you're like, oh yeah, basically, like, they love bombing, they shut out at you, or they doing X, Y, and Z, or like when people try to force um certain situations onto certain people. I was literally having a conversation the other day. This shorty that I know, me and her were texting. She was telling me about some dude, and I'm like, well, if he's acting like this, 2, 3 weeks in, that's kind of a red flag. And she's like, what you mean? It's like, number one, nobody should try to usher you into a soft girl era. That's something that you got to come to yourself, you know. And if you're hesitant, for that means something's going on that where you don't fully trust this individual, or maybe it's not fully him. Maybe it's you. And she basically said that in a very long-winded way that it was her. And I told her like, I get it. What's understood doesn't need to be explained, but you need to verbalize that. And you need to, let him know that how he's moving isn't gonna be conducive to what you want. And if he's receptive to that, great. If he's not, then okay, cool. But I said, like, yeah, and I said, if it's been 2 3 weeks, maybe a month, and he's already moving like that, it's like like that's not a that's not a green flag. You know, he's trying to force you to be something that you're not. He's trying to force you to be, living in the feminine energy, and it's like you can't force that. That's the one thing I've learned in relationships. You can't force somebody to be ready for you. You know, it's either they are or they aren't, and if they're not, then please get out my way. You know, and I mean that in the most respectful way possible, because it's like you're not gonna sit there and like just monopolize my time when it's not worth it. Like, why would I sit there and give you more time and more energy if you're not reciprocating that to begin with? And well, it's difficult to have that conversation. It's difficult to sit there and be like, oh, like either you want this or you don't. Like, you don't get to stick me on the shelf and think that like, oh yeah, it's gonna be, you know it's gonna be this, it's gonna be that, because it's not. You know, like, you're not gonna, like, it's not gonna be a situation where you can put people on layaway and then go pick them up whenever you feel like it. No. I think that's just disrespectful to them. It's definitely disrespectful to you. Because a lot of people do that thinking that they have options, and what they fail to realize is that they're the option too. You know, you know, very rarely somebody else's like first pick. You know, and somebody asked me once, it's like, yo, like, how you single? This and this and that. I'm like, yo, it's I just stay out the way, and I think that's important, because I don't go out there thinking certain things, or thinking things will be what it is when it's not. Um, I try to live in reality. I don't live in a fantasy. I don't force things. I once was told years ago, um, by a girl that I caught romantic feelings for. We was friends for a long time, and shit kind of just clicked, and like, we kind of just clicked, and like nothing happened. But I remember she said something like, what did she say? She said, like, this should be easy, like it shouldn't be hard. I'm like, it's only hard because you're not interested. It's only hard because we want two different things. Like, I want a relationship and we were headed that way, then whatever reason it stopped, and then you wanted to go back to being friends. I'm like, I can't do that. You know, it be it be doing me, a disservice, because why would I want to be friends with you when I already told you how I feel? You know, and we ended amicably, but it's one of them people that is like, when you look at that situation, and then you see how they moving, and it's like, okay, but what does that got to do with me? Like, why does it have to be such a tall task for you to sit there and like actually take accountability for the shit that you've done? You know, not just with me, but with other people too. And I'm like, and I remember telling her, I was like, you lack the boundaries to be healthy, but and then you want to complain about everybody else. But I told her, what you fail to realize is that only reason that certain shit keeps happening to you is because you don't learn. Like you're sitting there making the same mistake over and over and over again, but it's like you don't learn from your mistakes. You're just making the same ones over and over and over. You know, but yet you want to sit there and say, "Oh yeah, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada," and you really can't. You know, you really can't blame other people. You can't blame the situation. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, you have to look at the mirror and you have to take ownership for yourself. And you have to understand that the reason why you're going through certain situations is because you fail to recognize the signs, and you fail to understand that it's also your kuliana to fix certain shit. You know, to take accountability for your actions, to understand that what you have going on is also your fault. What you allow to occur is also your fault. Anyway, y'all, this is about 26 minutes of your life that you won't get back. Hope y'all keeping the 4 P's, private player, positive pushing, and I'll see you on Sunday. And like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a good day.